I have 5 minutes to tell you about how we are all going to change the way we communicate. And the best example, so the industry likes to call people who do things hackers. Are you an enthusiastic computer user, or are you someone who uses something called Skype? This is from an article I wrote 5 years ago, just after Skype was launched, and at the time it was illegal in South Africa to make a telephone call through the internet. And this used very clever software that these guys had developed to share files between each other, music files, piracy. And what it did is it hacked the system. It let you use a pre-existing system of internet connections to make telephone calls. 5 years later, this is the largest international call carrier in the world, and mostly it's free. SMS was considered a white elephant until the teenagers found it. SMS, short message service, was a system the engineers created in GSM, which is the global cellular system we used, to tell them what the base stations were doing. It was a reporting mechanism for what the system was doing. And now, once the Scandinavian teenagers found it, it became the most useful thing in the world. This is the most important symbol in the English language, because more than anything else, it created an identity for people online. If anyone remembers the early days of the internet, pre-1994, Time magazine called the internet the man of the year in 1995. That's when it truly came of age, and I just happened to be best friends with this wonderkind who founded a long time before that. And this symbol became the symbol that you used to define your identity. In those very early days of the internet, what was so remarkable was that you could be anonymous. Everyone was thrilled you could be anonymous. What you could do with your anonymity wasn't very much, but you could be anonymous. And what's happened next is that we have become obsessed with our identities online in a very particular way. You've heard about this site, haven't you? Facebook. Who isn't on Facebook? Yeah? Ava Vector, obviously. Well, in these day and age, this is the default form of communication. 300 million people use Facebook as their primary means. My wonderkind best friend announced his wife was pregnant on Facebook, to my ongoing horror. Nonetheless, everybody is on Facebook, although not everybody is that popular. I call it the face boom. It's a new way of communicating what is so important about yourself. In fact, it's not really you. It's just a slice of you. It's what you want the world to see. It's that your best side, your best angle. Johnny Drama, anyone? There's a note here that said NASA discovered water on the moon using a $79 million project called LCROSS. A few days after Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize, they bombed the moon. Which is a very far cry from something like this. I mean, this was the kind of computer I originally used. The chairman of IBM famously said in 1943, I think there's a world market for maybe 5 computers. Nowadays, you carry a computer that is more sophisticated than something that ran Windows 95 in 1995 in your pocket, and most of them are touch screens. It will be the greatest telecoms hack. The greatest telecoms hack that we've seen in the world is something called pay-as-you-go. Because the system that was set up for cell phone users was postpaid. You had to pay after you used the device. And no one would give the poor of the world credit. So Vodacom, this little company in South Africa with about 20 million subscribers now, came up with this idea where you could pay in advance for it. And has become the most efficient way to get people into the system. It's gone pretty global. And it represents an incredible amount of ingenuity. The default application in Africa is still the radio. That's during the Depression. That was last Thursday. this is the kind of things people will do. One of the best things I've heard of recently is, does anyone know those please call me's? It's a free message you can send to someone so that they call you back. Some research done in Grahamstown by Jane Duncan and Harry Dugmore, they found that people were using these pre-call me as like a kind of a short code. So if you send 2 please calls me, it means, meet me at the cafe in 15 minutes. 3 means you're buying lunch. 4 means whatever else. In the minute that I have left, the most important thing that's happened in Africa is not that the Maasai use those, but this thing called Mixit. This is a game-changing invention. It is free messaging. It is the railroad of Africa. Herman Hurnes, the inventor, said, kids no longer use email to discuss anything. Email is something that teenagers use to communicate with authority figures and teachers. They all use SMS or Mixit or instant messaging. And the first time you ever heard of Twitter, what was your first thought? Mine was, who gives a shit? But ask everybody in Iran who managed to stage a revolution in a hardline country. They may not have changed the regime, but they certainly made a statement. That's what the Twitter website looks like. This is a clever piece of software called TweetDeck that lets you manage it. Luckily, there is nothing embarrassing in my direct messages. And Twitter is the biggest thing this year. Who knows if it'll be the biggest thing next year? It allows you to do things like share photographs instantly. All of this communication that we keep saying is going to be happening, this is what's happening. Is this the next big thing, Google Wave? I don't know. I've been using it for a couple of weeks, and I still don't know who gives a shit. Which is all a very far way from that. And if you look in the top right corner at the album over there, it's truly quite remarkable. And that's all I have time for.